All right, good evening, everybody. Hello, everybody on the call. We are recording. And what are we talking about today?
We're going to wrap up communication, which
Good.
we were speaking about for 2 weeks. We started talking about listening, and then we spoke about talking. And
last
ironically,
week was a flop.
While I was talking, I got cut off. So it's more important to listen than to talk, obviously.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I'm also going to, once you finish, give the people a chance to tell us their experiences, if there's any changes in their way of communication. All right, all over to you. Have fun.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome, or good morning. Some of you might be from over the seas. So we spoke about communication, we spoke about talking, we spoke about listening, the importance of each of those facets of communication and how they work together. And obviously we said listening is more important than talking. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we need to spend more time and more effort listening than we do talking. But what I want to talk about in wrapping it all up is why. What is the purpose of communication? Why has it been given to us? Why do we need this tool, or in essence, life source? Because, I could just sit on my rock and be happy and content to talk to myself, and that could be life. But before we got into the lessons on communication, or the understanding of communication, we spoke about how about teamwork, and how no man or woman is created to be an island and to live in isolation, and how we need each other, and how it's important that relationships exist. And that's exactly why we need communication. If you think of the word communication and you think of the word community, they contain pretty much the same letters for the majority of the word. And so we need to be able to communicate in order to build community. And we do that by building these relationships with each other through talking and listening. So if you think about how the whole concept of GL, or other gifting communities for that fact, came about, somebody sat and shared an idea with someone that they were in relationship with, and maybe that person shot the idea down, maybe they got on board, maybe they bought into the vision. But the whole concept started through communication. Someone shared that idea. How can you create a community gifting platform if there is no communication amongst peers and amongst a community, or in building that community amongst people, if we do not share that vision and allow people to hear what we have to say? So the important thing to remember is the gift of communication, or the tool of communication, has been given to build community. And it can start just by you entering into a relationship or connection with a person completely unknown to you. Like Stefan often says, he'll be walking through the supermarket and just smile at somebody, and that could spark a conversation. And that conversation could lead to a platform of trust, which could lead to an open and honest communication, which could actually begin to form the foundation of a community. So we never know who the people are that will essentially build this community with us. Very often in situations like we have here in this awesome community, the people that are closest to you are often the ones who aren't in this community with you, or not in this relationship with you, because maybe they just don't want to be there. Maybe it just wasn't communicated as clearly as it should have been. there's various reasons, but at the end of the day, we have a responsibility to build the community through our communication. And that's also one of the reasons we do these little sessions every week, so that you can hear our hearts and we get to hear yours when you do speak. and we can share with each other where we're going and how to build this community. And one of the awesome things that have happened in our platform in the last couple of weeks is where we've started forming these small groups to work on boards together. And it's incredible how the communication dynamic has changed in those small groups compared to when it was just one big group and everybody was involved. Because now you've got people that are having to open up and having to share and having to give honest feedback and honest communication so that we can help to build that board and help the whole project to move forward. So sometimes in our communication, we also just need to step back and evaluate. Maybe the picture that we're painting with our words is too big. Maybe people just don't absorb it or understand it. And sometimes we have to break it down into its smallest elements. They always say, how does a mouse eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And we have to evaluate in our communication. Are we giving too much information? Are we bombarding them with stuff? Is it too much to take in and process? Do they not fully understand the vision? And why don't they fully understand the vision? Maybe it's because we've communicated it incorrectly, or we've just given way too much information and it's gone over their head. So we break it down into simple elements, into bite-sized pieces that people can understand and that people can then share. Because if you were to take this whole concept of what's been put together and the entire vision that we have, and you were to try and share that with a friend or family member or someone you've just come into a relationship or friendship with, and you try to express to them the fullness of this vision, you're going to lose them. You're going to confuse them. You're going to bombard them with way too much information. But in communicating with them and building that trust and working towards community through your communication, you bring them in so that they can start to actually experience the vision rather than to be told the vision. So it forms a different dynamic of communication. We spoke about verbal and nonverbal communication. Well, very often the nonverbal speaks volumes, speaks much more than the verbal. That saying that they have that a picture paints 1,000 words is so true. When people see the image of what you are trying to share with them regarding this community, and they see it portrayed in your life, it's about giving, it's about compassion, it's about caring, it's about uplifting, it's about love, it's about understanding, it's about trust, it's about honor, it's about integrity. When they see those things portrayed in your life and in your relationship with the other people in this community, and even other people that aren't in this community that you're connecting with, they will respond to that. But when you stand and tell them all about it, and you use these big words and these incredible things that every motivational speaker uses to create that rah effect, you don't necessarily win them because your words are not reflected in who you are. So we started off in this journey of communication together, saying, let your communication always be honest and clear. Let it be true. I posted a little picture yesterday in the motivational and humor group saying, about our words. If sometimes the words form in our mouth, in our heads, and they come out of our mouths before we had a chance to process them. So let that communication be clear. Let it be honest. Let it be true. Let it reflect exactly who you are or who you intend to be as a person, and people will follow in that. Same with when you're listening. Exactly the same concept applies. Let your attentiveness to the person be genuine. Let it be sincere. Let it be humble. Let it not be about you. You're not listening to them to respond. You're listening to them to receive and to take that information in. And maybe in that receiving, there is an answer, but maybe there isn't. But it's about you committing yourself to be honest, to be loyal, to be humble in that position of listening to what's being shared with you. So I hope some of the things that we've shared with you over the last couple of weeks with regards to communication have been helpful. It often, takes me back and makes me think, what is my purpose in this relationship? What is my purpose in building this community? And you've got to stop and check yourself. I'm not doing this to try and become rich. I'm doing this to fulfill a vision. I'm doing this to uplift people. I'm doing this to be part of that team that we spoke about a few weeks back. I'm doing this to help and change circumstances and change situations. So, let that be communicated in the way that you express yourself, in the way that you connect, in the way that we build this community together. So I'm going to stop right there, and then we're going to allow you to ask some questions, or maybe we can even ask some questions, Stefan, and we can get some answers.
Yeah, is there anybody that is going to volunteer to tell them how the last few sessions about communication, and I think this is the fourth one now on communication, has changed the way that you communicate, either by listening or by speaking? Who's volunteering? Put up your hands. Otherwise, I'm going to nominate somebody. There's only 6 others on the call. If you jump off early enough, I'll miss you. I see Andries already fled the scene. Megan, are you ready to explain to us how the sessions on communication change the way that you communicate?
Hi, everyone. I must be honest with you. I haven't been on all the calls. My work doesn't really allow for me to be present at all the calls because I work really late. I'm in the hotel industry, so I try to be on the ones that I can be on. I myself am a communicator, so this subject intrigues me quite substantially, and it's very useful. And I like what Andrew has just said now about the sincerity in how we project the message about what we are actually trying to do here in the bigger picture. Excuse me. So, and the fact that you need to listen to somebody's story in order to be able to communicate with them on how you can assist them. Not do it for them, but be there for them to assist them on their level of understanding. I think one needs to meet somebody on their level, regardless of the way their perception of you is to listen for long enough to understand where they are coming from. That is my take on communication in the GL sense.
Yeah, it's very important that you communicate on a person's level. I said many times that when I meet a person for the first time at a coffee shop, I'll introduce myself and we'll chat for 5 minutes. On the second call or the second meeting, then we'll talk about each other and tell life stories and share life stories. And the third one, then I'll explain to them what gifting is. And only on the fourth meeting, we will start talking about gift of legacy. And then you must convey the information in such a way that it's understandable for that person, bits by bits. You don't have to give them the whole picture. Start at the beginning and then take it through from there.
Yes,
yeah, that's very,
absolutely.
very true. Yeah, communication, I'm gonna hit you hard now with the first part of communication was listening. So if I post a message or if I say something in a Zoom call, you need to listen. There's no excuse not to be on a live call because there's recordings. You can watch all the recordings. Sometimes it's 20 minutes or 25 minutes. Put it on before you go to sleep and go listen to all the previous ones. There's always time. I like to watch YouTube before I go to sleep, whatever time of the night it is. And I'll put on music sometimes, and sometimes I'll put on a series. I'm busy watching one about Magic of Life. It's 63 episodes. if I fall asleep in that episode, so be it. I'll watch the rest tomorrow. And sometimes I watch 2 episodes. So the recordings are always there. There's this one got a little bit of a break. I had a connection issue on my side, but so be it. We are going to be here every Thursday, and Andrew's going to share his wisdom with us. Right, anybody else? Nobody else got something to say. Andrew, what are we going to talk about next week? I think we finished with communication now.
Before we go there, you spoke about determining the person's level or communicating with them on their level. How do we determine what that level is if we don't spend time listening?
Exactly. If you don't have that first 3 meetings, you have no idea on what level this person is. But after 3 coffees and maybe a pancake or 2 or a waffle, you will know how to approach that person. Because if you listen, if you do 70% of the talking or 75% of the talking and you listen, then you know everything you want to know about that person. And then you tell them about gifting and gift of legacy. That is how easy it is. You need to listen first. Always try to be, or what I try to do, sometimes I talk a lot, it's true. I can talk for hours. I think my longest speech was 4.5 hours to a group of 72 drivers. Not a training session, it was just a speech. But on a normal conversation, I limit my talking. First conversation, I listen. I need to know the person. If I go to Pick n Pay over the weekend and I find the supervisor, which I met 2 weeks ago, I'm going to sign her up for Gift of Legacy. I spent 45 minutes standing dead still in Pick n Pay while her staff did my shopping for me. I'm going to sign her up this weekend. That's how easy it is, because I listened to her for that whole amount of time. And once you listen and understand and get to know the person, then you can go forward. Okay, Michaela got a hand up. Oh, wonderful. I like Michaela to talk. Unmute yourself. Tell us how communication changed for you.
I must be honest with your last comments now, both of you. This is an area in which I struggle. I truly do. And while listening to what you were saying, especially your last comment there, Andrew, it kind of dawned on me. I think this may be true for quite a number of people when we are involved with Gift of Legacy. We tend to wait to the last minute kind of thing to speak to people, or we feel that we need to approach people under pressure. And so we tend to not pay attention to what they are saying. We don't even try and build relationships, if you know what I'm saying, in a conversation. So we don't even get to number 3 conversation before we even introduce them to Gift of Legacy. I am so guilty of that. I really am. I tend to just dive in. I really do. So yeah, it's a skill that I seriously need to obviously work on, or tool, as you call it, but I call it a skill as well. Maybe it's to do with my sort of direct kind of way of communicating and dealing with most people most of the time. I do try and listen, and I do try and pay attention to detail, you know. But when it comes to, and maybe it's to do also that I look at Gift of Legacy as a business for me, instead of as a gifting, you know, like a gift. You guys look at it differently, if you know what I'm saying. So
yeah, it's not a business, it's a gifting community. Yeah. It's a complete different set of challenges and rewards. Gifting is not a business. That is very important to remember.
I think that's where my problem lies. If I need to make a mind shift there, and clearly, you know, a mindset shift there, and then just take it easy and not feel that I need to rush it rather work at it slowly and get the right people, you know, or speak to the people that I really feel led to, and speak and share my heart, because that's what it is, isn't it? Hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Share
Absolutely.
you
my
need to
heart.
share your heart. But if you're in too much of a rush, the way that you see it as a business, there's one thing behind that. And I see this in all the little groups that we've got. I can't remember how many. I think we're over 450 groups now. The groups where people get a little bit nervous and tense is because of a spirit of scarcity. If you can understand that it's a gifting community, it's not an investment, it's a gift that you give away unconditionally. Even if you sit on that board for 18 months, doesn't matter. Your turn will come. The more you give, the more you will receive. That's many, many times in the scriptures you can find that. In the groups where there's a bit of tension, there's always one or two people who's got the spirit of scarcity on them. And I'm not scared to tell them that straight in the group. I've done that in open group as well. I tell them straight, you're in a spirit of scarcity. Get yourself out of that.
What do you mean by spirit of scarcity? Sorry for interrupting. What do you mean by that? Could you define?
I'm going to give you a very, very simple sentence. When are you bringing in your two people? That sentence comes from a spirit of scarcity.
Oh.
And the reason for the groups is not to put pressure on people, it's to work together. Some groups, I take all 8 positions. If I and Andrew works on a group, we'll sort out so that division 2 goes to a profile where I can gift easily, or that maybe only $50 or whatever is needed, or on one of my own boards. It doesn't matter. But we finish his boards because we understand it's a long-term project. I ended up on a board today where I needed a link from the right guide and builder number 1. And I gave them 7 minutes. No response, no links. So I started sending links out from the legend position. I filled 14 positions on a board that was basically empty on my own by doing it sequentially. And I followed my own guidelines. And after about an hour and a half, the first person responded, "You were looking for me." I said, "Well, the message said I would like some links from you. You're now going to move up from builder to guide without your 2 invitees." Now they're awake. They understand. I don't need other people to operate the board. I can take the whole board myself. And to know how we operate. We take a board and we finish it. Some boards take longer. We've got boards, when was the first groups open? 2 months ago. That's still not finished. There's 4 people on. Doesn't matter, the one half split off. We take our time. There's no rush. There's no pressure on anybody. I've got 6 version 2 people who didn't register yet. Yes, and I frequently threaten I'm going to call them, and I will call them one or other time. But I'm not going to fight with them. I'm going to find out what is the situation. I'm going to listen. I'm going to listen to what is the challenge currently in their lives, and then we're going to find a solution. There's always a solution for every challenge or issue that might come over your path. And once you've got that relaxed attitude of there's no pressure, it's not a business, it's gifting, that's when the groups start working together. And quick, even if there's 2 people that lives in the spirit of scarcity, we change them. We talk to them. I pick up the phone and I call them. And we get them to understand, listen to the other person. If you can't bring in an additional gifter this month, maybe next month or the month after that, doesn't matter. We've got 1,800 open boards with 450 groups. I'm opening groups for all the boards over time. I'm still far behind on my messages. We're over 800 again. But there's no rush. If I'm tired, I take my coffee and I go outside and walk around the building. Take a rest, stretch the legs. The computer is not going to run away. The chat is not going to run away. The people is not going to run away. The board is not going to disappear. It will still be here. If I spend 5 or 6 or 7 minutes outside and I come back, then I'm fresh air in the lungs, and then I carry on. And then go through the groups, listen to what the people say. Most of the time, I just put a thumbs up in a group so that people know I've read the messages, because they started to communicate. on the right levels. They're starting to listen to each other and then respond. Because they listen, they can give a better response. And there's hardly any fighting in the groups. Once in a while, we get a haywire person, but we sort them out quickly. Very quickly. One phone call and they understand. Stay calm. All right, Andrew, I don't know what's happening. We've got only 3 minutes left. I think I've set this thing to 30 minutes.
13. It shows 13 on the top here. But I want to just...
Mine shows 3.
Okay. It's saying remaining 13:03. I want to just add to your answer for Michaela to maybe bring some clarity there. I don't know if you were on the Zoom that we did, Michaela, when we spoke about the seeds and the sowing and reaping principle. And that's really how we have to sort of focus our communication in our community as well. You need to see yourself as the person that's responsible to plant those seeds. And you got to carefully choose the seeds that you want to plant. Now, you can choose the type of crop. You can't determine how quickly each seed is going to germinate, and you can't determine how quickly each seed is going to bear fruit. But you can select those seeds. And then you've got to plant them and you've got to nurture them. But you can't overwater them. You can't expose them too quickly. You really have to wait until they have germinated and they've taken root before you can actually influence them in any way. Because once the seed is in the ground, the farmer can't do anything about it. So your preparation is important. And once you are certain that your preparation is done, then you can plant. And when you've planted, you can't do anything until that seed breaks ground. So to lose the business mindset and to start thinking of it in a more of a natural sense or a natural or farming mindset maybe helps, and they say we become like the people we hang around. So the more time we spend in communication and in community with each other, and we learn from each other, so we start to reflect that right mindset, and we move from that so-called spirit of scarcity into a spirit of life, which will eventually become a spirit of abundance. Because once the trees break ground and they've taken anchor and the fruit starts to come, well, then you can't stop it. All right, you just got to maintain it. So it's very important to have that change of mindset first of all. And we've always said in the GL circles that you want people that are like-minded, like-hearted, that share the same vision. How do we know that the people are that way if we don't spend time listening to them? If we don't actually give them more than just our ears, but give them our head and our hearts as well when they share who they are, so that we know that we can adopt them and that we can place them in the palm of our hand as a seed that can be planted, and then we can work with them and nurture them from there. So I hope that helps and gives a little bit of insight.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Andrew, I'm the host, and mine